Gurmagate Kiangorla. Camera have a legamachisha nilor shacht nomad, and a will the raw amsa or raw. A gentleman mihal. A pillow ulwore shaw, agus billa an tavotuche. There are 141 sections in this bill and 95 pages, and I get 7 minutes to outline my thoughts on it. Minister, it's not sufficient. First of all, I have to say I'm not altogether totally convinced of the merit of a highly regulated private system over the possibilities of a public system. Basically, for the next 30 years, people are going to be putting a lot of money into private funds for private investors. I'd rather the state would have that money. I also have to say I was very impressed with the contribution of Deputy Gannon yesterday. I think he raised some very interesting issues. And one of the obvious questions is, why aren't we going towards a pay-related state pension? Now, that goes to a fairly fundamental issue that you can't answer, I can't answer, and nobody can answer. But it's a kind of dread thought I have, and that it is the whole idea of this to save money into the future. And the only way you can save money into the future by introducing this is to steadily reduce the real value of the state pension. And I have a desperate feeling it won't affect me and probably won't affect too many people in my lifetime, but as time goes on, I would worry about that. And of course, I'll be assured it won't happen, and they'll index link it until the next crisis. The other issue that I'd like to raise, or another issue I'd like to raise, is the fact that for every euro you put in, for every €3 you put in, the state's going to put in €1. Now, for every €100, when you put €100 into a pension policy and you get tax relief, you get €40 of a kickback. So if you do the calculations, and I've seen calculations done by the department, but it seems to me that if I want to put €100 in the pot, I'm in the ski, I've put €66 in, and the state will put in €33. And on the other hand, if a high-income person wants to put €100 in a pot, effectively they put in €60 and the state puts in €40 by foregoing €40 of tax. This seems to me to be unfair because it means that you're better off at the top end than at the bottom end. The other big concern I have doesn't relate directly to the bill, but I fear that lots of pensioners who are comfortably off when they were working are going to be very badly off when they retire. And the reason for that is that up till now, the vast majority of pensions were either in local authority housing or they owned their house. The vast, vast majority of the people I deal with. But in the future, we're going to have a big cohort of people who are in private rented. Now, those who are on a very low income will get HAP or state assistance with their housing. But those who are on a modest or medium income will have to pay the rent when they go on a pension, and that's going to become a huge part of their outgoings. And that's going to create, in my view, a new poor that we seem to be ignoring. Therefore, if I was a person with a reasonable job today and I was starting off again, if you asked me to put money into pension or make sure I own my house, I'd say the best pension investment I'll ever do is own my house. One thing I would like to see happening, and we were told, if you put our money in, it'll work out at so much after 30 years. But what we weren't told is, on the average inflation of the last 30 years, what would that be worth in today's money, in the money that will be there at that time? In other words, when I started working, my salary was small anyway, but it was, in real terms, minuscule. You wouldn't give it, it would be a fraction of the minimum wage. So when you put money into a pension pot, you think you're getting a lot of money, you think it's earning money, But in real terms, depending on inflation rates, it's actually not earning any money at all. I think this is something that we need to look at. One question that we raised in our report on the pre-legislative was the fact that only 20%, now think of this, there's going to be a huge amount of money invested in these funds, a massive amount of money. The state's going to be putting in €1, the employer's going to be putting in €3, and the employee, and after a while, that's 6 and 6 are 12, and 1 are €13, or 13%, and 80% of that's going to fly the island. 80%. And not be invested here. Because up to now, the experience is that only 20% of investments by Irish pension funds are invested in Irish equities and bonds. And I believe, and maybe it is in the bill because I didn't have a chance to read the 100 and whatever pages involved in it, the 141 pages, but I believe that there should be a mandatory minimum of auto-enrolment funds invested in Ireland to ensure Ireland benefits economically from these funds. And also I believe that we need to lay it down clearly in the law that there will be good investment practice in relation to sustainability, environmental, social and governance factors, and that we should ban outright investment in fossil fuels or in the arms industry. Fossil fuels because they're damaging the climate, the arms industry because it's totally immoral to be investing in the arms industry in a world that, if we're not careful, we needn't worry about pensions because we'll all blow each other up long before that. And that, unfortunately, is a real risk at this part of my life. And the last time I can remember that was about the Cuban crisis in the 60s. There should also be a statutory requirement to invest in Irish renewable energy developments in order to ensure our climate action targets are achieved. As without achieving those targets, I think the question of the future of all pension funds will be at risk from climate change.